Welcome back to page 121. Today, a special day. S1, The Tomb of Horrors. One of the first dungeon adventures I was ever actually in as a player, and one of the earliest ones I ever DM'd as well. We're going to take a look at this in some detail. I'm not going to go through each and every encounter. We're going to take a look at some of this and see why this is a beloved module and a much hated module by a lot of people. The Tomb of Horrors is questionable for some folks, and I'll go into the details why. I also want to do a quick reminder that I am doing a subscription drive right now. I'm trying to up the subscription to the channel, get that magical 1,000. I'm also doing a Patreon. I'm going to start offering rewards for Patreon. I'm thinking maybe a short printed adventure. Please let me know if I did do an adventure. Would you want it for D&D or Traveler? Or maybe one D&D, one Traveler in a month or something like that. Let me know what you think of that. They'd be very short, couple of pages. Just some ideas that I would jot down, and you might be able to turn into an adventure or a side quest or something like that. So just something I'm thinking of for Patreon for the rewards. Also, please, these subscriptions, I'm trying to get to 1,000. Want to keep the channel going and growing, and for that I need you. So if you like what you're seeing, please go ahead and subscribe. Come on. It's fun on this side of the fence. We talk about games a lot. And that's it for the pitch. So today, Module S1, Tomb of Horrors on page 121. Tomb of Horrors from 1978, written by Gary Gygax. This is actually my copy I bought in 1981. This is a later printing of it. And this was an adventure module that Gary Gygax decided to run because he got tired of hearing about all these invincible characters that were running around in D&D already. And how they had an unkillable this and an unkillable that. And he's thought, well, you know what? Let's put their skills to the test, and I'll create this ultra-hard dungeon designed specifically to test players / kill them, and we'll see just how good you are at this game. It's an interesting premise, as in most things from this era of D&D. It's rather adversarial. It's very much DM versus players, which is not how I play the game, never really how I played the game. But I understand this is a tournament module and you were trying to go ahead and earn some points and things like that. For today, I'm going to take a look. I'll show you the module on the back. I'm going to show you the gatefold. There's a picture of the tomb itself and then the layout of the floor plan and everything. We have a couple of false entrances to the tomb. Entrance 1, entrance 2, and then entrance 3 is the true entrance. I'm going to go into something I did with that in my campaign. I'm going to show the illustrations as I go through the book, and the illustrations I'll be showing will be from this copy. No, this is not one of the actual monochromes. It's a reprint from the late 90s box set that TSR issued for the Tomb of Horrors on the anniversary. So I am going to be showing the illustrations out of here because this copy, the one I have from the early 80s, actually has the staples running through it. I don't want to pull the staples out. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at the images out of this module as I go through some of the encounters. So starting out, oops, pull that gatefold out. Starting out with, there we go, the illustration booklet. Here we go. Some pretty nice artwork in this one. This is really what really made this module stand apart. They're really nice artwork. There's a lot of good encounters in this module, and there are some encounters that are just, you're dead, see ya. And I'm not crazy about you're dead, see yas. I'd rather have something be a little more competitive, but that's just me. So starting out with the false entrance. False entryway 1, if you use that, it's not the illustration here, right here. If you go into that, you use any force to kind of wedge the doors open, and the entire ceiling collapses on you and does 5d10 damage to you. That's an interesting way to start a dungeon. I did it one time where I had told the players how lethal this dungeon was and how nasty it was and everything. So they went ahead and they went in and they picked entrance 1, and they went in and forced the door, and I had a collapse, and it was a TPK right off the bat. I got them all in the hallway. I say this boasting because I had written in my notes, this will be a dream sequence to show the character's lethality of the dungeon, and does not count. It's one of the player characters, the cleric of the group, will get a warning from his deity and how, to be very careful of what he's going to do. Players didn't actually believe me at first. They thought I was just being nice and not doing a total player party kill. I had to actually show them my notes where I had actually written that it was a dream sequence before they would accept that I had always intended to be a chumpy kill, and then we would go forward from there. So that was kind of fun. The next false entrance, if you go in there, a slab drops down and it traps you in there, and yeah, it's interesting. But then we get to the true Tomb of Horrors entrance, which is going to, this is 1 and 2. We get to the true entrance, which is 3. This is one of my favorite illustrations in all of D&D. I absolutely love this depiction of the tomb. That really just immerses you. You're feeling surrounded. You're feeling the nasty evil. I really enjoy that. As you're walking through there, there's pits all over this area. You can fall in and take all kinds of damage. Here are the pits indicated as you're walking through. So it's pretty nasty. And then the areas, the torture chamber is painted there. It's a hidden passage. There's a lot of stuff in here that is just kind of interesting, but I don't know. I liked this little chest has an item in it. Now, let me clarify one other thing, because as I'm reading the module, I'm also I'm feeling in my head, at least I'm contradicting myself. I have run this module many times, most recently about 4 years ago for our regular group. And I've played in this module a number of times as well as a player, specifically back in the 80s. I have never played or run this module as written. I didn't want to do a complete party kill. I didn't want to wipe out high-level characters for no real purpose. So I changed some stuff around, and I made it a lot of fun, but I did make it dangerous. And I killed several player characters throughout the course of this. And I warned everybody going in that this is a very lethal dungeon. But I did not follow the Gygax pattern in here, where you're just bam, dead, no saving throw, no nothing, you're just gone. So if I contradict the module a little bit, that's because I'm telling some of my story too. This little chest, for instance, I always had contain a small magic item, something that would fit in there, but it was always a decent magic item. Like a couple of times it was like a pair of +5 daggers for throwing. One time it was a ring of protection +4, and one time it was a ring of wizardry, 1st, 2nd, 3rd level, and usable by any spellcasting class. So if you're a druid, you got the ring of wizardry, 1st through 3rd, double your spells. So that was always kind of a good one, and it was always kind of a freebie from me because it's so early in the dungeon. So as you're making your way along, I'm going to continue showing the illustrations, because this to me was just so much of this adventure. There's a better picture of the little chest that I was just talking about. And then, of course, the famous portal with the mist in it. This is encounter number 5. You have to press the arches, the various points on the arches in a correct sequence in order to negate it. Otherwise, bad things happen as you step through. There's nothing intuitive in this dungeon. It's very odd combinations, and very unlikely that you would randomly try these combinations, which is another thing that I'm not crazy about the dungeon as written. I want to say, you're going to hear me say some stuff like that throughout this video. That is not to imply I don't love this dungeon. I do. I just love it as a more competitive dungeon, as in the players have a chance, as opposed to a slaughter fest. Just never been a fan of those. Now we go to probably the most famous illustration out of here. Good old number 6, the face of the Great Green Devil. Go ahead and stick your arm in there, I dare you. I actually had a player stick his head in once. And yeah, it acts as a sphere of annihilation. You can't move, but once you go in deep enough, bam, your head is just gone, your arm is gone, the end of your 10-foot pole is gone, whatever you do. I actually did it one time where it didn't activate until the 4th time something was put in there. and after that it activated each time. I actually got an arm by doing that, and then a few seconds later I got another arm from a different player because he figured it had tripped once so it wouldn't do it again. So that's a real tempting thing to stick your arm into. Don't. The Forsaken Prison, I did get somebody in there, right there, number 7. I actually trapped him in the Forsaken Prison. It's an isolated area, 10 foot by 10 foot by 10 foot. You're completely surrounded. There is no entrance or exit. You have to use magic to leave. The player character that was trapped in there, he was teleported into it by the magic of the module. He was trapped in there. He had a scroll, yes, a scroll, with one teleport on it. But he was a magic user, but he didn't have teleport in memory. He hadn't gotten it he had it for a spell book, but he chose to keep it on the scroll. That's what it was. So he had it as a spell, but he only had one. And he had not studied the area just outside, so he wasn't comfortable teleporting just outside the Tomb of Horrors. So he chose to teleport home, which was, I believe, back in the Kingdom of Furiandi for that guy. So, and I have this placed in the vast swamp down by Sundi. So he actually teleported out of the game, and I had him bring in another character because that character survived, but it teleported himself right out of play. So one of the more interesting things I've ever had happen in this. The 4-limbed gargoyle, right there. It's in temporal stasis. It's huge, 64 hit points with a 19 strength. Does a lot of damage, and it has a collar studded with huge gleaming gems. 10 gems on this, worth 100 gold pieces each. And then there's a little slip of parchment with the magical runes on it. Look, and it says on top, once you use read magic, look low and high for gold to hear a tale untold. The archway at the end, and on your way you'll wend. So, kind of interesting. He's a tough fight even for higher level characters. Here we go. We're up to number 10. Illustration. Number 9 is a complex of secret doors. This is the Great Hall of Spheres. They're painted with figures of animals, strange glyphs, humans, and human-like creatures with spheres of different colors. And once you come into here, you play around with the globes for a little bit, and it's kind of a distraction. It doesn't really do much. I always just kind of had the spheres be things that would activate different things in the hallway. I remember I had this I-beam shoot out one time. I think it was a sepia snake sigil. So they had to use Dispel Magic to get that guy back, that kind of stuff. Then we come to number 11, which is the 3-armed statue. And this is one of the things I'm going to gripe a little bit about, because you have to put this, there's the arm broken off the statue, and if you put something in each of the 3 hands and then do different things that you would not likely do in sequence, the broken hand has an invisible item in it. The invisible item is a gem of seeing. This is all well and good. You have to, you got to have stuff crushed in the hands and things like that. The gem of true seeing is invisible. In here, if you tip the hand and you'll hear it roll out and the gem will roll away, you have to look for it. You can't use detect invisibility because you can't use detect invisibility. It's just something in the module. It says, well, it's coated in a mystical substance. You can't use detect invisibility to find it. That always seemed a little, I don't know. Really? I have a detect invisibility. I spent a spell slot on it, but it still won't help me in this case. If you find the gem, you wipe off the mystical goo that keeps it invisible, and then you have a gem of seeing. We have a trapped false door in illustration 12 that's shooting a spear out at you. This actually was the first time I'd encountered a false door, and believe me, they became plentiful in my dungeons. So now we go to the Room of Chests, which is 13A, Chamber of 3 Chests. The gold chest has 12 large asps that poison you. You save -2 or die. The silver one holds a +1 ring of protection, but 8 darts fire up and hit you. That's illustration 13C. Right there. There's the snakes. There's 13C, and then 13D is you get this handsome fellow. He hops out, An animated giant will be instantly teleported into the chest and will always strike first. It wields 2 non-magical scimitars and attacks twice per round, 2 to 12 damage each. 32 hit points, AC 2. Attacks at 10 hit dice, and all edged weapons only cause 1 point of damage. Blunt weapons do normal. That can be a lengthy encounter if you got a bunch of sword wielders. And it can't be turned. So, a lot of stuff in this, which just for reasons, just goes ahead and ignores various rules of D&D. So to my mind, that doesn't really make it a test of the player's playing skill, because they're not being allowed to use some of their playing skills. This is just a way to go around some of the playing skills. So again, grousing a little bit, but I do love this module. I love this module for the illustrations. I love the layout of the module. And I love some of the encounters, and I have used many of the encounters. I just don't make them as lethal. And then we come into the Chapel of Evil. I've actually had some really good combats in the Chapel of Evil where I've had some type of demon who's been trapped there, posing as a priest and things like that. That can be a lot of fun. This, if you are going to the altar itself, it does damage to you just because you're there. We get the stone gate that leads up and out of the room right there. And you have to drop, there's a little slot there. You have to drop, it looks like a coin, but you actually have to drop a magic ring in there. And the magic ring is crushed and allows safe passage through the gate. Again, not intuitive that you think, hey, maybe I'll put a ring in there. And of course, any ring or anything that you put in there is crunched and destroyed. Illustration 16. This is an interesting one. There's a door at the end of a hallway, and I have used this one pretty much as written. So number 16 is right here at the end of a long corridor. So you get the players going down the corridor. This is a famous illustration from this module as well. And then the entire area is nothing but a teeter board, if you will. And the players get past the tipping point, and it starts to tip. And they start sliding, and they take a bunch of damage. It's interesting. In this module, if you slide all the way down, you land in a pit of flames and molten lava, which will absolutely snuff them out. That's a quote from the module. So I didn't do that. I did have them take a bunch of damage for the fall, and I had them land in some fire, but I didn't just kill them. Number 18, this guy. This guy's a lot of fun. This guy is pretending to be a Sararak. It's not. It's just a zombie, but he's got different powers cast on him. It's kind of neat. He's got programmed illusions. This guy is good. This is a good encounter, and you think it's a Sararak, and it's not. And the first time I went through this, I thought, wow, we finished the bad guy, and what are we going to do the rest of the adventure? Well, we found out this wasn't a Sararak, so that was pretty cool. Encounter 19 is laboratory and mummy prep room. Some nasty stuff in there. I want to get to, there we are, the huge pit filled with 200 spikes. Right there, appropriately named. Okay, it's a huge pit filled with 200 spikes. The idea is that you can't climb the walls. You can't jump it because the ceiling's too low. So the thinking was you would lay something over the spikes, climb down the wall, cross the spikes, climb up the other side. But you can't. Well, you can, because every time you get within 3 feet of this wall, a volley of 2 to 5 spikes shoots up, causing 1 to 6 points of damage, no save. Some magical means must be used to get across. New spikes will come up for the ones that were just discharged. So basically, there's an infinite number of spikes that come up to prevent you from doing this. You can't even take the damage because you still have to cross those last few feet and start the climb up. And as soon as you do, you're taking more damage. I had a guy stubbornly try to stay in there, and he ended up taking just a ton of damage. Okay, number 21. This one's interesting. This is the Agitated Chamber. You get into here, there's a bunch of locked trunks. There's a bunch of angry asps that are hiding out here. Again, the tapestries. This is another room that I went, really? Because this, too, is not really a test of the player's skill. The tapestries are treated anti-magic. That's from the module. They are creations of green slime and brown mold. Whenever the tapestries are torn which is easy to do because they're old and moldering. So basically touching them tears them. Whoever tears them has the appropriate green slime or brown mold fall down on them, and basically they're dead. There's no way to detect it. There's no way to know about it. Even detect life, which wasn't a spell at the time, but is now. Even to detect life wouldn't work because they're coded in anti-magic, so you would get no life reading. I don't know. It's not a kill I enjoy. Coming over to number 22. This can be a very enjoyable encounter. You are dealing with a siren, but she is cursed by a Sararak, where she cannot tell the players why she's there, what she's doing, and she actually is good aligned. If the players treat her nicely and ask her to come along with them in the dungeon, she becomes this lifelong compadre for them. Otherwise, as my players did, they end up killing her because they think she's evil because she looks evil, but she's really this beautiful siren. So that's a fun encounter. Number 23, you basically go in there, you start walking around, there's a mist. The DM starts counting. You have until the count of 5 to leave the area. Otherwise, you just fall asleep. No saving throw, no resistance allowed. And while you're asleep, this little guy comes out and makes you into one of these puddles. Another just, oh yeah, you're dead. Okay, well, that was fun. Thanks for playing. Okay. The next encounter up is the 25 sequence. We'll go a little bit out of sequence here. 25 is the Room of Pillars. The Pillared Throne Room. When you walk in, any creature who touches a pillar, whether you brush it or touch it intentionally, you begin to float under levitation until you bounce gently to the ceiling, just as a child's helium balloon. To stop this effect, dispel magic or remove curse must be placed on the individual. So you end up bobbing around the top up here. Kind of interesting. And then we get to the Devil's Face, which is number 6. About 4 feet above the floor is a mosaic of green devil, which appears exactly the same as the one earlier. Any creature coming within 3 feet of its gaping maw will be sucked in and instantly teleported, spat out with no clothing or gear, back to location 6. So you get shot out of the mouth, and you get dumped right here, back in the starting corridor. So to refresh everybody what the face is, I'll show you. And there you go. So you just get shot out of that. Instead of being disintegrated, you're shot out there with all your gear gone and no clothing. And then the Charred Remains is the illustration 25C right here. And then we get the Dais Enthroned, which is 25D right there. Players cannot keep themselves from screwing around with a throne, especially one with a crown and a scepter on it. If you put the crown on, you can see everything in the chamber, but you are blind in normal daylight. The crown can be removed only by touching the scepter to its top. The scepter is of electrum. If the gold knob is used to touch the crown, you can lift it up from your head. And if the wearer, if the silver end is touched to the crown, the wearer is instantly snuffed out, turned to a fetid powder, which cannot be brought back to life no matter what, which wishes notwithstanding. So it's a 50-50 once the crown's on your head. If you touch it with the scepter, it's a 50-50 as to whether you live or die. Again, not a real fan of that kind of thing. And then we're going to go to 27. Well, room 26 is just a small room with a blue light. 27 is the Portal of Scintillating Violet. There's a bunch of enchanted weapons that come up and attack you in here. You get all kinds of really bad effects if you goof around in there. And then we come to, we're almost out, 27A, which is the Chamber of Hopelessness. Any creature unfortunate enough to be teleported here from 25B is doomed, for their fate is clearly written in glowing magic letters written on the north wall of the place. You who have dared to violate my tomb, now pay the price. Stay here and die slowly of starvation, or open and enter the door to your south, where certain but quick death awaits. Whichever you choose, know that I, Asarak the Eternal, watch and scoff at your puny efforts and enjoy your death throes. Interesting little guy. And it's I'm not crazy about no-win scenarios. Now we go to 28, the Wondrous Foyer. There's an antipathy on here. Any creature, let's see, on the 4th step, any creature touching it has save -2 or be touched by antipathy. Those who fail to save will never touch the key or allow within 2 feet of their person. So if you get on the 4th step where the key is and you fail your antipathy, you'll never ever be allowed to be near you. Now we go to 29, the Valves of Mithril, which is just some doorways that can do things to you. And then 30 is the False Treasure Room. It's a silver, this imposing chamber has a silvered ceiling. And then there's a bronze urn, and a giant sarcophagus with a Staff of the Magi in it, a broken Staff of the Magi, an iron chest. There is a lot of treasure in this, but it's not great. The Giant series certainly had better treasure. But then this wasn't about treasure, it was about the adventure itself. And now we go to the final stuff. Number 33. 31 is a 2-way doors to the north, secret door. And then 33, the Crypt of Acererak the Demi Lich. So there's the 33, and then we get to 33A, which is his skull. This is a close-up view of the skull. I personally didn't really even know what a Lich was when I played this adventure the first time. I certainly didn't know what a Demi Lich was. This Demi Lich basically can kind of zap you, suck your soul in, your body turns to a withered husk, and there's a 50-50 chance your soul's been eaten and consumed forever and you're gone for good. And there's really not anything much to fight. All you can do is make the Demi Lich go back dormant. I have to say, in all of AD&D, one of my least favorite monsters is actually the Demi Lich. Disappointed that that was our main big bad evil guy for the end of the adventure. I expected something better. I wanted to fight Acererak. I wanted to fight a Lich. I was aware that a Lich was an undead magic user, but the first time I went through this, I really didn't know what a Lich was. So for me, a little disappointing in the ending. Here we go, the last couple pages of the module. Here are the character roster for use with the Tomb of Horrors, with the 20 characters you could use. And then the magic items the characters go in with. Not very powerful by any means. Not very powerful at all for these guys. Let's see. Yeah, you've just got half-elven cleric. Yeah, just not great. 14th level cleric, 11th level magic user, 11th level thief, 8th level thief, 9th level thief, 5th level fighter / 6th level thief, so multi-class. I wouldn't want to be one of these, or a 4th level fighter, 5th level thief, again multi-class. I wouldn't want to be playing one of those in here. You get slaughtered fast. So, and there's the back of the book. It's a good module. It's a module that I still love for many sentimental reasons, more than the actual love of the true adventure itself. The inspiration this module gives is hard to match. I've taken many ideas and things out of this module, but running it as written, no, I've never done it. I never really intend to do it. That's not a bucket item for me. I would rather run and have a good night playing it than run and slaughter my characters. I did run this close to as written at that old club I used to belong to that I talk about now and again, and the players weren't crazy about it. I ended up only doing it as a one night because it wasn't real popular, because I played it really, really dangerous. I had a reputation for being a killing DM at that club, rightly earned, by the way. And even at that, I had people who routinely played my game say, "Hey, what are you doing?" So, Tomb of Horrors, I love the module. I genuinely do. I love the illustrations. It makes the module for me. But incredible lethality for only about 8 pages of text. About, let me see, it's a little more than 8 pages. For 10 pages of text, this is an unbelievably lethal dungeon. So that's all I've got to say. I hope I didn't step on any toes with this one. I love Tomb of Horrors. I just would never play it as written. I love Acererak. I love his legend and myth and everything. I have replaced the Demi Lich at the end, by the way, with a very hyper-powerful Acererak in a couple of times I've run this. I don't think I've ever run the Demi Lich. I think I ran it one time, and I killed a couple people taking their souls, and I found it very dissatisfying. So that's all I've got to say about Tomb of Horrors. I hope you liked it. I hope that I didn't tick off too many people who think this is a sacrosanct module that nothing bad can be said about. But there you have it. So that's my take on Tomb of Horrors. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please like and subscribe. Please remember the Patreon. I'm doing the subscription drive, as I mentioned at the top. So if you could help out there, that'd be wonderful. And I want to thank you for your time, and I'll see you next time on page 121.